Hello, my name is Alex Lingard and I am head teacher of Liskeard School and Community College, and I say that with an immense amount of pride. It is a job I absolutely love. It's a school I really adore, and it's a community part of a community that I feel really attached to. So I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about the school, about what we expect from students, give you a bit more information about what's going on and how you can support us during your time as part of Team Liskeard. So I am going to give you run through a few slides that I would normally share on induction evening, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and when we come to the end, I'll give you a brief update about what's going to be happening in September. But there will be much more detailed response about that coming out very shortly as well. So mission transition, so transitioning from year 6 to year 7 is really important. You know, it's a big sort of rites of passage, if you like. It's a big moment in students' lives and in parents' lives, and it's something we take quite seriously, or very seriously rather. But it's obviously been difficult this year, not being allowed to have students up onto site en masse. I know a very small number have been up one by one, but that really is a minority rather than a majority. So I hope you've been able to see some of the videos we've been sending out from students and from tutors and from Mrs. Birkbeck, all giving you more and more information about the school without you actually having been here. Although I know a number of students have been into school over the last few years for various events and activities. Okay, so transition obviously isn't just one day or a few days. It's there's a lot to it, and I'm going to go through that in a moment or two. Okay, the first thing I want to just talk about is really say not just welcome to Team Liskeard, but thank you for putting your trust in us. It's a service that we provide first and foremost. We are a public service. We are here to do the best job we can possibly do for your children, and we want you to feel part of that as well, which is why we brand ourselves as Team Liskeard. It's really important to me that people feel part of that community and that have their voices heard as much as anybody else. So we know research shows us that your impact on students is greater than ours. So we really need to be working with you to make our job as successful as possible in securing the lives of your children and making sure they go on to lead fulfilling lives, whatever it is they want to do. So thank you for putting your trust in us, and welcome to Team Liskeard. So the school is in a pretty good place, if I'm really honest. I joined the school 9 years ago, and I would say it's completely different to the school I joined back in 2011. We've got lots of great stuff going on. We've got some good stuff going on, and we've got some stuff that we need to do a little bit better in. It's something that I'm constantly looking to improve all the time. So just a few things that are on the screen there. Our sixth form is fantastic. I mean, it's consistently in the top quartile nationally. In the last 3 years, we've been in the top 10%. In the last 2 years, last 8%, top 8%. So we're doing something right, very much so at the very end of the school life. Our GCSE results for the years, just a couple of years below the sixth form, are doing well. They're good. They're not outstanding. It's something we could do a little bit better on in some subject areas, but they are improving. One of the reasons we're doing well is because we've got really high quality teachers and support staff in place. I think our attention to pastoral care is second to none. And we are lucky, we've got a great site, we've got lots of facilities, so we're able to really deliver on a really broad and balanced curriculum, so students really experience lots of different subjects and get really quite broad choice when they go on to choose their GCSEs or A levels and so on. Lots of opportunities. We often get spoken about really positively by parents and others in the community about how much opportunity there is for students to get involved with at school. And I actually think this is just getting better and better year on year. The support from people like yourselves, but also from the local community, is just fantastic, and it really helps the school move forward. So we are very much going from strength to strength. Ofsted came in just before the lockdown, and we're really impressed with some of the things that we started, some of the things that are embedded, and some of the things that we're looking to improve in the future. So that was a really positive experience, and a really nice sort of pat on the back in terms of we are really focusing on the right things to make a real difference to more and more children. Okay, so let's talk about transition. So the first stage of transition is sort of happened. So as soon as we know students are arriving with us, we speak to primary schools, find out as much information about the students as we can from them. Once we get all that information in, we spend a long time selecting which tutor groups each student needs to go into. We then update the tutor team with all the details that we've got from primary school, so they're really well informed. We've appointed and trained up our peer mentors, so they're Year 9 students who are on hand to support various tutor groups and individual students. And obviously we would have normally by now had our induction days, but obviously we couldn't do that. So we've had that virtual induction, which was obviously all those videos that have gone to you via the website or via Mrs. Birkbeck. Okay, but it doesn't stop there. I mean, obviously we've told you a bit about the school, we're getting ready for you, but it doesn't just stop that basis. So transition part 2 is slightly different this year. So what would have happened in June is now going to happen on the first 2 days of September. So because of everything that's gone on in terms of the pandemic, we've changed our calendar for next year. The staff have been fantastically flexible, and they are coming in now on what would have been holiday time. So the Tuesday and the Wednesday, the 1st and 2nd of September were officially part of the summer holidays, and the first day was supposed to be Thursday, the 3rd of September. All staff have agreed to come in on the Tuesday and the Wednesday to have our training and get ready for the year ahead, which allows us to use the Thursday and Friday for 2 days of induction for Year 7. So on those 2 days, the only students in school will be Year 7 and some Year 12s who will be obviously new to our sixth form. So they'll be doing their own induction, very similar to Year 7. So that's the second stage of transition. So they've got a nice couple of days with no one else on site, so they can get used to the place and understand all our systems. All right. Then the third part of transition is obviously how we get them settled in over the first term. So normally we would have a tutor evening in around about October, mid-October, but because you haven't had a chance to meet the tutors yet, we thought we'd try and bring that forward to mid-September. The reason I've got a question mark next to that is because I'm not entirely sure whether we'll be allowed to run that or not with the current restrictions from the government, but I'm just working on possible plans, see if that can happen in one form or another. So hopefully that will take place, if not face-to-face, maybe online. And then at the end of the first term, we'd like to get together thoughts from all the different teachers that your students will be having taught, be teaching them, and get them to send home to you just not a huge amount of information, just information about their attitude in lessons and how they're sort of grappling with their new subjects. Okay. After that then becomes sort of into routine stuff, so that we are informing you like we would any other student in the school, and we find really quite quickly Year 7s do settle in really quickly and get to grips with things in no time at all. So I've just done an assembly actually for your child, which you may or may not have seen. But I spoke to them about our values. The ones that are shared on the screen there. These are really important to me, really important to the school community, and it's important that the students and yourselves really understand what they are and buy into them, I guess. So we know from our point of view, everyone is equal. No one is more important than anyone else. Everyone has a voice in terms of we want to hear from them. If there's an issue or something they want to raise, they have equal status on that part. We think everyone should be treated fairly. There should be no, if everyone's equal, then there shouldn't be any unfairness at all. And that idea of respect is obviously key to enable not just schools to run well, but for society to run well as well. And really important one, obviously, for the students is that they take responsibility for their actions. So if they've said something or done something that they shouldn't have done, then obviously they take it on the chin if there's any follow-up with that. So it's really important that we all embrace those values. The other thing I told the students was that their future starts here, and I really want them to start thinking about their future, thinking about what they could possibly do with their lives, and I guess more importantly, what they do now in school, how that impacts on their future as well. So every little bit helps. So if you can enforce that as well and support that, that's really good, because it's no bad thing getting students to talk about possible options for the future. It helps raise aspirations as well as enable them to actually do well in school. The other thing I mentioned to them was I wanted them to believe. I want them to believe that actually this is a place where you do succeed. We've seen that phenomenally with our sixth form. We're seeing it more and more with our GCSEs. So as students arrive to us and maybe lack a bit of confidence and self-belief, we see a real difference in how they progress over time. So it's something we need to build up in them, and over time, and get them to really start believing in themselves, that the fact that they actually come to Liskeard School is therefore they will be a success over time. So if you can help embed that as well, that would be much appreciated. The final thing I sort of mentioned to them is key was the 3 key attitudes that I'm really trying to push with all students of courage, resilience and kindness. I won't go into them now. I talked a bit about them on the student assembly, but it's something we talk about a lot. So if you ever have a chance again to talk to them about being brave and trying new things, please do. If you talk to them about, you're not going to get there first time and you have to work hard at things, talk about resilience with them, that'll be fantastic. And the idea of being part of a team and being kind to each other and being a good citizen, again, is something that would, if you do that as well at home, it reinforces the message that we're trying to say here. So one of the reasons I think the school is going from strength to strength is because we have what I believe to be high expectations and high standards in lots of different areas. And I think as well as getting the teaching right, as well as having a good curriculum, if you don't have those high expectations and standards, then it falls down. So things I'm talking about are like in green on the screen: attendance, punctuality, uniform, equipment, homework, behaviour, all those things are absolutely key. And I'm a big believer, if you look after the pennies, pounds will look after themselves. So that those little things make a big difference. So I'm just going to talk about a few of those now, so you're fully aware of where we stand. So we have a homeschool agreement. You may have a copy in the induction booklet. Students will get a copy in their planners at the beginning of term, and we want them to sign up to it. So I won't go through all of those things now, but it's all the obvious things about being punctual, bringing the right equipment, wearing uniform and so on. And they're obviously trying their best and buying into that courage, resilience and kindness stuff as well. So they get to sign their bit, say what they're going to do. You get to sign your bit about what we want like you to do in terms of encouraging and supporting them in their learning, making sure they come to school with the right equipment and uniform. Please make sure they're here and on time. Support us with our standards of behaviour and attend parents' evenings if we can run them as much as possible. And obviously check in terms of communication, whether that's social media or emails or texts or via the planner. Okay. And I guess what's really key is the one there about telling us if there are any problems. If we don't know about them, it's hard to resolve. So rather than have a grumble, please let us know, and then we can do something about it. Okay, so if you could sign that as well once you get that copy, and then we've got our own bit obviously, and we need to make sure that we're doing our bit. We want them to choose to make sure they've got high quality teaching so they can learn well. We want them to give them those opportunities, care for them, build positive relationships, and so on and so on. And like I said a minute ago, listen to your concerns and really act on those as well. So let's go through a few of those details. So attendance and punctuality, absolutely key. If they're not in school, they're not learning, generally speaking. Obviously, it's been different for the last 4 months, and we've been doing home learning, but obviously we know the impact of missing school under the normal regime. So please get students in as much as you possibly can. So average school attendance is around about 95%. That equates to 3 or 4 days off each school term. Okay. Year 7 attendance, however, is generally higher than that, sometimes even as high as 97%. where students are missing maybe 2, possibly 3 days off each term. And just for your awareness, there's a phrase called persistent absence. It's when absence is 90% or below. That is really classed as very, very poor attendance by the government, and that's, you're talking about a week off every term, so about 3 weeks over the whole year. And if you get to that level, then the serious questions start to be asked, unless there's obvious medical issues and so on. So 9% the same might sound good, but over the year you're talking about almost a month worth of lessons. And we noticed there's a massive difference in the outcomes for GCSE students when their attendance is low. So you can see at least one whole grade drop at GCSE, if not more. In fact, last year our year 11s with 95% attendance or above scored a grade 5 on average. Those with 90% or below scored a grade 2. So it's a huge difference, regardless of how hard they work, regardless of how bright they are. If they're not in school, they will miss out. Okay, and then in terms of term time days, you should not be taking any holidays. It will be an automatic penalty notice if you do that. All right, and that just falls in line with all students, all schools in Cornwall now. Okay. Obviously, I don't need to talk about the importance of punctuality. You know, in the world of work, you know, it's like, I'm sure you can't be persistently late to work, nor can you be in school. It causes disruption in school. They miss out on their learning, and it doesn't set a good example for the rest of their lives. So we are quite harsh on punctuality, and if they turn up late, they will get detentions for that. Okay, moving on. Equipment, I'm sure you've seen these. We need you, absolutely need you more than ever, actually, to make sure the students are fully equipped. In the new regime, which I'll talk about at the end, we are not going to be allowed to be sharing equipment. So we will be giving out equipment if we have to, because the students haven't got it, but we can't take it back in. So that's going to be really expensive to us. And obviously we don't be doing that. So if you can make sure they come in fully equipped every day, really appreciated. We'll be doing an equipment check every morning if needs be. Okay, so you'll have seen that list, I'm sure. In terms of behaviour, we're going to have to review our behaviour system slightly for September, but generally speaking, we have what's called a 3-strike system. So the first strike is a warning. Second strike, there's a consequence. It might be a short detention, and the third strike is removal and from the class and a longer detention. So if there are any more serious issues than that, that can be what we call an escalation, and students might end up being isolated in a room with a member of staff for a period of time, or the worst case scenario, they are excluded from school for a fixed term. So it might be 3 days or 5 days, for example. Attitudes to learning also falls under what we call behaviour, and we take those attitudes to learning really seriously. We really want to promote those as much as possible. We grade the students on it, on how hard they work in class, what their efforts are, how engaged they are with their learning, how much they are trying to contribute to the lesson, and so on. So that's really, really key. Bullying, I'm not going to lie to you and say it doesn't happen in school. There will always be aspects of bullying in all schools at some point, but we have a zero tolerance to it. So when we have evidence of one child being unkind to another, we always take action. Sometimes it's hard to get that evidence, but when we do, we always follow through. But equally, as well as the sort of punitive role of sanctions for bullying, we need to make sure we educate the students about it as well. So in our personal health and social education lessons, known as BHSE, students are taught about healthy relationships and how to behave towards one another, and what to do if someone is being unkind, and so on and so on. We also have trained up some student anti-bullying ambassadors, so they are around to support students as and when. All right, there are loads of staff trained up in various aspects of relationships and dealing with that. So our pastoral team are very experienced, so we know that students will be well supported from that point of view. Homework, bane of everyone's life, but it does make a difference, and that's why we continue with it. It really does impact on the progress of children. So students will be set homework, usually weekly, sometimes fortnightly, depending on how often they have a subject. And things like art or music might have project homework rather than more regular homeworks. Homework will be set online via a platform called Show My Homework, which I'll talk about in a minute. And we often get students to write it in their planners as well, so it's good habits of making notes and recording information as they receive it. So there are two mechanisms of seeing that homework. There's zero tolerance in terms of deadlines. A deadline is a deadline, so if it's due in on the Monday, we expect it in on the Monday, and if it's not without good reason, then they will get homework detention. There's homework club, they're available to support students, and that's really quite popular particularly with some of our younger students as well. So what is Show My Homework? So it's a really simple platform online where you can access the homework that's been set. You can either download your own login details and see just what your son or daughter's homework is, or if you don't want to do that, you can just go to the generic Listgard Show My Homework page and just find their relevant homework. Okay, it's much easier to download the app. It's really easy to download the app on your phone or on tablet or laptop, whatever, and you can just see, if you log in with your login details, you can just see what your son or daughter's been set for that night, or due it, or when it's due in, and so on, and what they've still got left to complete. It comes with lots of details about what's involved with the homework, and often teachers can attach resources to help that homework be completed. Okay, you'll get details if you haven't received them already. You'll get details shortly about how to log in with your own personal logins for you and your son or daughter. So you can do that really simple. I've got my son's in year 7, just finishing year 7 at another school, and I've got the app on my phone. It's dead easy to use. The app used to be Show My Homework, is now seems to have changed to the name Satchel One. So don't get confused, it's the same thing. All right. Here's an example of what the homework might look like. So there's a description at the top, who set it, when it's been set, and when it's due in, how long it might take, and some resources that they can attach, they can download to look at to help them. Okay. Uniform is really important. We expect students to wear it correctly. We expect them to wear the right uniform. So we don't want things like trainers or jewelry, fingernail varnish, unnaturally coloured hair. We want them looking smart and taking pride in their appearance. Okay, so if students aren't wearing the correct things, we will contact home and ask them to get changed. So either they need to be sent home to get changed, or if you can bring the correct item in for them to change in school. Sometimes if it's persistent, they'll be isolated until it gets corrected. Girls who wear skirts, we don't have any boys wearing skirts at the minute, but anyone wearing skirts, if they wear them too short, they'll be asked to wear trousers instead. Okay, so we are pretty strict on uniform. It's not because we're obsessed with uniform, we just want to set good standards. Communication is absolutely key, so lots of ways of doing that. Students will have a planner in which you can write in. That's becoming less used, if I'm honest, as a means of communication, but it's still there if you'd like to. If you know your child is not in school, please call us before 9 a.m. and make sure there's a note in their planner for when they come back to confirm the reason for that. If you've got any concerns at all, like I mentioned before, please let us know. So if it's general concerns, let the tutor know, or the head of year or assistant head of year, because they have the general overview of things. If it's an issue about certain subjects, please email or contact the subject teacher. But if the concern is about that teacher, please let the head of faculty know. So we will make sure all the new staff that are starting in December, all their details are updated on our website by September. So you've got easy access to their contact details. The best way, if I'm really honest, is by email. Generally, staff can respond to those pretty quickly. But if you don't use email, please give us a call, leave a message at reception, and someone will get back to you within hopefully 24 hours, but if not 48 as a maximum. Something called Class Charts is another bit of software we use, and we'd like you to download that app as well. This details about that will be coming out shortly as well. And what Class Charts does is tell you when every time a student gets a merit, so it tells them about positive behaviours in class, but it also tells you if there are any negative behaviours as well. So if they've been set at detention or if they missed a homework, it gets logged on Class Charts, and you get a little notification on your app if that happens. So both the positive and the negatives. It also enables you to see the students' timetable as well. So it's quite a useful tool. It's really well used in school, and it's a great way of keeping track with how they're doing in terms of their positive and negative behaviours. We really encourage you to follow us on, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. We're looking at trying to get Instagram as well. So watch out for that. But we post loads of information out on social media. So if you are linked to us on that in that respect, then you're not going to miss out on some of that information. We do email out lots of information as well. So things like our progress checks, letters, reflection magazines all get emailed out. So if you haven't got an email address, probably worth your while getting one and letting us know those details. Please try and check it regularly, because as I say, we tend to email out most things these days. The website is always updated with all updates anyway, so you can go to the website if you want to look at that. We try and write a digital magazine every month called the Reflection magazine, with lots of updates, what's been going on in that month and what's coming ahead for the month ahead. And then I don't know if I'll be able to do it next year, but hopefully we'll at some point. We run coffee mornings for parents, inviting in random parents from each year group, just to find out from your point of view how things are going from your perspective, because we want it, we've got our own opinion about things, but we want to hear it really from your side of things as well. Okay. Now then, the curriculum. So this is these are the list of the subjects your son or daughter will be studying in year 7. It's going to change slightly for September. English, math and science are normally grouped by ability. The bulk of the other subjects are taught as tutor groups in mixed ability groupings. Technology and PE are often taught in slightly smaller classes. However, come September, we are not going to be able to run it like we have run it before. So it is very likely, almost 99% certain, that all classes will be taught in tutor groups of mixed ability. Okay, so we have to keep students in bubbles. I'll talk about this in a separate video, but basically students will be in a particular zone in the school, taught in a class, and the teachers will come to them to deliver those lessons, unless they need specialist facilities. So maybe in an art lesson or a music lesson, or even a drama lesson, for example, or PE, the students will then be taken over to their lesson in another part of school. Okay, but they will be contained in their bubble to protect them or to reduce the risk of spreading any sort of infection. Okay, so what's on the screen at the minute is what we have currently been offering, but as I say, it is very highly likely that all groupings will be mixed ability for year 7, 8 and 9 for next year. Okay. One thing we'll be doing, as I said to you previously, is reporting on their attitude scores, how they've done in each of their lessons. So they'll get a score of 1 to 5 in each subject. 1 is excellent, 5 is of serious concern. We don't get many 5s to reassure you, but we get lots of 1s and 2s, and average score is around about the 2 mark. So students generally have a good attitude to their learning. Some is always some is excellent, and we grade them on 2 things: application and organisation. Application is about their effort and their how they apply themselves in class, and organisation is like meeting the homework deadlines, being well equipped, fully equipped when they come to lessons, that sort of thing. Okay. The other thing we'll do as well, and we won't be doing this till after January, is giving students scores on their progress. So how much progress have they made since joining us in each of their subjects? And again, progress of 1 to 5, 1 being excellent, 5 being of serious concern. So if they start with as a very high level and they continue to remain at a high level, they get a progress score of 1. If they start at a low level and make extra progress and move up, if you like, then they'll get a score of 1 as well. But if they start at high level and then after a year they're not in that top bracket again, or after a period of time they're not in that top bracket again, then their progress will maybe will be a 3 or a 4, and they've dropped down. So it's it doesn't matter what the ability of the child. It's really about, in relation to their starting point, how much progress are they making. So if they're getting 1s and 2s, fantastic. If they're getting 4s and 5s, something's gone wrong, and we need to look at what we need to do to put it right. Okay. What they will experience in lessons on a daily basis is a few things like this. So we've got something called Do It Now, which is when students start the lesson. Teacher comes in and tells them straight away, this is what you need to get on with straight away. So it gives a high pace to start the lesson, to the learning from the first moment the lesson starts. Okay. We also have things called arrow work or arrow tasks, where students are really challenged to do that little bit more. So it's like an extra challenge on top of other work they've got to do. Over every now and again, we give what's called a dedicated improvement time, known as DIT. And sometimes students have to improve their work. They have purple pens as part of their equipment checklist, and they use those purple pens to show the improvements they're making to their work. So it might be adding more detail, it might be correcting spellings, it might be just improving what they've started, and so on and so on. The other thing we're really trying to push at the moment is to develop students' oracy skills. We know they have to obviously write for the majority of their exams and do well in their written skills, but we believe in life generally, you've got to be able to communicate well. We want them to have the confidence to speak up and speak out, but we want them to be able to articulate themselves clearly. We want them to be able to give detail in their responses and so on. So we're going to really try to develop that as much as possible. And as I've mentioned already, throughout all lessons, we really try and promote those ideas of courage, resilience and kindness. We give merits for those as often as we can. Loads of opportunities in school. I won't go through all of them now, from being student leaders to taking part in clubs and activities. We have something called the Citizenship Award Scheme we're really proud of. We really like students to get involved in that. It's about being a good citizen and giving something back to the school community. So please encourage them to get involved in as much as that as possible. It will be limited, I'm afraid, certainly at the beginning of next term, because of the restrictions we have to put in place, but there will still be opportunities at some point throughout their first few months. What can you do at home? Well, there's loads of stuff you can do at home. If I were to give you my 5 top tips, they would probably be these. My first one is make sure they sleep. Sounds a bit obvious, but it's really true. As students get older, we've noticed only some, not all, some students spend far too much time on their screens prior to going to bed, then don't get a good night's sleep, and it really impacts on the next day. So first and foremost, make sure they're sleeping well, and therefore they're healthy and ready for the day ahead. You'd be amazed at the number of students that don't have breakfast before they come to school. It really makes a difference to their ability to concentrate and the energy levels they've got as the day goes on. So please make sure they have a good breakfast. And in terms of learning, I can't stress enough the importance of reading. It is probably the one thing that makes the biggest difference to children's success in school, because if they read more and their reading skills become better and better, their vocabulary improves, they're able to access the curriculum across the whole, all the subjects across the whole curriculum, and it really makes a big difference. So if you can encourage any sort of reading, it doesn't have to be a book, it could be online, it could be a magazine, it could be a newspaper, it could be a website, but any sort of reading at all, please encourage that as much as possible. If you want to read with them, that's great too. Make it an activity that you can do together, that's even better. Homework, as I say, is a key part of learning. It does make a difference, so please take an interest in it. Don't do it for them. Allow them to make their own mistakes. We need to see what they do genuinely is from them, so we can give the right advice and guidance. But please, if you can help in that motivation, getting them started and prompting them, that is really key. And that whole thing about asking students how was school today, and getting a bit of a grunt from a teenage boy or girl. I'm getting a bit of that from my son already. Can't be bothered to tell me what's happened today. my advice really is to start asking the questions on the screen, because this is one that makes a difference. So the feedback we give the students after a lesson or after a piece of work is really is as important as the way we taught them in the lesson, because we want them to continue and improve, and we need them to think about what we're telling them to get better and better. So if you can help engage them in that process, that would really help us too. So if you can start asking them what feedback do they've received today, then that then gets them to try and reflect on what they've been told by the teacher, and then they can that reinforces the messages we've given them. Now that's a lot slow burn. They won't, if you ask that question, they'll probably go and not give you much of an answer, but keep persisting with it, please, because it will make a difference to them engaging with that concept of DIT and dedicated improvement time, and thinking about getting better and better. All right, so they're my top 5 tips about how you might be able to help us help at home. Okay, so September, what does September look like? We're not fully sure. I've been spending all this week putting plans together to come up with the best plan possible. For year 7, it will probably be less of an issue for the other year groups, because they won't know any different. And as I mentioned earlier, they will be very much in their own zone, in their own class bubble, and teachers will come to them for the most part, but then they will go to other classrooms where there is specialist facilities required. There will be staggered breaks, so year 7 will have their own break time and their own area of break time where they can have some outdoor space. They'll have their own toilet space, they'll have their own access to the canteen at lunch, and so on and so on. So they will be very much isolated from other year groups. There will be times where they are moving across school, and they might come across different students who are transitioning at the same time, but it will be just passing in the corridor briefly, and it will be on the odd occasion during a normal week. Okay, I will be sending out another video shortly with more details about transport, about lessons, and our expectations on that shortly, so look out for that one as well. And on that note, normally we run a really fantastically successful trip early on in year 7. We take students to Porth Pian on a 3-day residential, and we do it sort of usually back end of September, beginning of October. Helps them bond with their tutor group and their tutor. We're not allowed to do that this year, so we will be looking at maybe running Porth Pian later on in the year, as soon as we're able to, and if it's not until next summer, then we might make it part of our challenge week, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. But we will be really trying our hardest to make sure that happens at some point. Okay, all right, so that's it from me. Sorry, that's about 40 minutes of your time. I hope it was useful, and as I say, look out for another video coming out shortly to give you more details exactly about slight differences for September. Okay, so I'll finish with where I started. Thank you for putting your trust in us. We're really looking forward to meeting your sons and daughters very, very soon. And please take care, look after yourselves, and have a great summer in the meantime. Best wishes. Thank you very much.